Alright, well, hi everybody. So today I'll be going over the FG-1D Corsair from Milviz. For those of you that don't really know, this is the Corsair that was built by Goodyear. It's basically the same plane though, so I'll be going through it, how to start it up, how to take it off, how to land it, and hopefully you'll land it a lot better than I did. But and then I'll do a short review on it, and that'll be it for today. Alright, well, here we are in the cockpit of the Corsair. I'm going to go through everything in here you kind of need to know, and then I'll start it up. So starting up here on the left side of your instrument panel, you have your RPM gauge, your altimeter, manifold pressure. In the center we've got a directional gyro, airspeed indicator, magnetic compass, turn and slip coordinator, indicator, coordinator, whatever. And then we've got a attitude indicator, climb indicator, accelerometer, cylinder head temperature gauge, and then down here kind of on the lower right we've got a oil pressure gauge, fuel pressure gauge. The oil is on the left, the fuel is on the right, and then the oil temperature gauge is up at the top of this. And then we've got down here your fuel gauge, hydraulic pressure gauge, amp meter. And moving further down we've got right up here your cooling flaps indicator. Then you have the lever for your oil cooler flap and intercooler flap, and then your cowl flaps are over here. And I'm gonna call this I guess like the aircraft systems panel. It has your battery, your primer, fuel pump, starter, generator, that kind of stuff on it. And then the panel below that is all the exterior lights. And then below that we've got cockpit lights. So you'll have to flip this switch on, and then all of these knobs control the brightness for the individual lights. And then we've got further down pitot heat, defrost, and then way back here in the corner we've got your tail hook. And then on the left side over here we've got the lever to spread or fold the wings, and this handle here will lock them or unlock them. I have flown this around and forgot to lock the wings. It doesn't seem to fold them up, so if you forget to lock them, don't worry about it. You're not going to fold your wings up in flight. And then we've got the not sure what we would really call these, but these are the releases for the left and the right fuel tank, or the left and the right bomb, whatever you've put on here. Then you've got the tail wheel lock here, rudder trim, aileron trim, and elevator trim wheels. And we've got the propeller pitches back here, your throttle lever, supercharger lever, and mixture lever. And we've got the fuel tank selector and landing gear lever. And we've got the landing gear indicators right here. The tail wheel is over here on the left and the main gear on the right. And then you have the magneto switch here. Your flaps lever is here, and then this red switch here is to drop the center tank or bomb, whichever you put on here. And then down here on the left side of the floor, kind of in front of your seat, is the hydraulic hand pump. And that'll pretty much do it for the things you need to know about the Corsair. So I'll go ahead and start it up here. Now you will need to open the intercooler flap and the cowl flaps before you start it. So we'll have to use the hydraulic hand pump here to build up some hydraulic pressure. So we'll click on this 5 times. And then we'll move these 2 levers forward. And it will go ahead and open up the cowl flaps and the intercooler flap. And we'll go ahead and put the wings down, so we'll need to pump this a couple more times. And we'll move the lever forward, and it'll spread the wings out here. So the next thing we'll need to do is turn the fuel selector to reserve. We'll go ahead and turn the magnetos to both. We'll need to crack the throttle, kind of where this red line is here. You want to get it at kind of even with that. And then we'll need to put the mixture on. Cut off. And we'll have to spin the propeller around a couple times, so you want to click on one of the propeller blades. And then it'll spin it around a couple times, and we'll come down here to whatever I called this panel, and we'll turn the battery on. We'll turn the fuel pump on, and we'll open the guard up for the starter. We'll then need to prime it for 5 seconds. So flip the primer forward, and flip the primer off, and turn the starter on. And as the motor kind of catches, you're going to want to move the mixture up to rich. And I'm going to turn the fuel pump off because that's just annoying. And you'll want to move the oil cooler flap to open after you've got it started. Now, once you get up in the air, you are going to want to close the cowl flaps and the intercooler flaps, at least a little bit, probably not all the way, but if the engine does start to get really hot, you just need to open it back up again. So that's pretty much it. I'll go through how to fire your guns and drop your bombs and put them on here and that, and then we'll go take the Corsair off. Alright, well, so you've got the map here, and this pretty much just takes the place of the VFR map, and it's really simple. You've just got a plus or minus here to zoom in or zoom out on the map. It will track your flight plans. If you have set up a flight plan, it'll be here and everything, so that's pretty much it. And then page 2 here is the loadout page, and this is where you can, you know, put bombs, fuel tank, whatever you want on here, ammunition for the guns, and the rockets. None of this really does anything. It looks pretty cool. You can fire the guns and you can drop the bombs. They don't explode. There are no bullets or anything, but it does make a noise when you fire the guns. And to fire the guns, whatever toggle water rudder is the button or whatever you need to press to fire the gun. So you might want to remap that to your trigger if you have one. And we'll go through how you actually fire the guns here and drop the bombs. So what you're going to want to do is gun sight on now. Since Sim Update 7, at least that's the update that I noticed, is my gun sight doesn't actually display anymore. So I'm going to chalk that up to Sim Update 7. Because it used to work, but it doesn't work now. So anyway, then we will come over here and we'll want to toggle the guns on. So I want to flip these switches. Now all 3 of them will flip no matter which switch you click on. And then we'll want to arm them. So we'll turn the master armament switch on. And you do have a gun camera. There isn't really a gun camera, but the switch works. And to actually fire the guns, we'll need to come down here to safety, and we'll need to turn the safety to charged for both of them. So you click both of those, turn that to charged, and then you can fire the guns. Nothing happens. I mean, there's just, you know, kind of like muzzle flash and noise, but it's kind of cool. And so we'll go through how to drop the bombs real quick. So you want to come up here to the switches on the right side of the gun sight. You want to flip the left hand release, right hand release on. We'll want to arm them. Then we'll come back here to the left side of your left side of your seat, and we'll pull this and pull this, and that'll drop to the left and the right. If you want to drop the center, if you have a bomb or a fuel tank on the center, you'll need to flip this switch, which is kind of annoying to get to because of the flaps lever. But anyway, so to drop the center, you flip this right here. And that is how you fire the guns and drop the bombs in the Corsair. So we'll go ahead and take it off here. Alright, well, here we are. I'm going to go over I guess 2 things before we take off. One of which is taxiing the Corsair is a little difficult. Like it's not difficult to I guess maneuver around on the ground. It's just that it is really nose heavy, and the propeller on this plane is massive. So it has a tendency to like to nose plant itself, and it will actually bend the propeller up if you strike it on the ground. So, which will either end the flight for you, or it will force you to have to restart the flight anyway. So, if you're having trouble with that, one of the things that might help is in your little fuel section here. Not sure why it's reading 50% when the tanks are empty, but anyway, you have this section in here called rear ballast, and what you can do with this is add weight to it. What it does is it weights the tail down so that it doesn't nose plant quite as easily. Now, when you have put weight on here, it will affect your total for your weight, but once you throttle up to take off, the weight will disappear. So it'll just remove it, and you won't be flying with that amount of weight on there. So if you are nose planting the plane a lot while taxiing, then this might help. Now it's not going to help you when you try and land, but at least for driving around the runway, it might. And okay, and then the other thing is, depending upon the loadout that you've put on this plane and the weight that you have, if it's fully loaded, you're probably going to want to take off with 50 degrees of flaps here. If it's depending upon, let's just say though, if you have a loadout on it, you want to have the flaps set at like 30 degrees to 50 degrees, somewhere in there. If it's clean, you don't really need flaps. Even when it's clean though, I will tend to put the flaps down at like 10 degrees for takeoff. And I guess real quick, there are 2 little warning lights here that you're going to want to pay attention to. One is your water injection thing here, this light. Now, if you are starting to overheat the engine and you're starting to burn off all the water, this will begin to blink. Once you've burned off all of the water, it will go solid. And this really only happens if you are, running the engine too hot for too long. So I'm going to put this in simple terms. If you were to full throttle the plane constantly, it'll take it about 2 minutes to start to burn off all the water. And then after this light here goes solid, you're going to have about 5 minutes before you actually blow the motor. Maybe longer if you turn the supercharger on. It seems to lengthen that. It's like when I tested it out, it was like 10 minutes plus, and I gave up after that. It's not going to blow the motor, but it will reduce the power of the plane. You probably won't be able to get much more than maybe 120 knots out of it once you've kind of damaged the engine with the supercharger on. Now, the other light you want to pay attention to is this one here. So if this comes on, it means that the carburetor air temperature has gotten above, I believe it's 40. But either way, if this light comes on, you want to flip the supercharger to low. And, you probably want to pull the throttle back a little bit and open up all the cooling flaps. So, that's pretty much it. We'll go ahead here and take off and see how we do here. So go ahead and throttle it up and get it rolling. But we can get the tail wheel off the ground here soon. Get back on. Now, wow, that was terrible. All right, so you want to lift off at about 70 knots. It was really bad. Put the gear up and go ahead and retract the flaps here. The stall speed for the Corsair is about 70 knots, so that's what you're going to try and lift off at. But in order to avoid damaging your engine, which you're really going to want to do, if you're going to just cruise around, basically you want to leave the manifold pressure at about 44, 45, and don't really have to worry about the RPM too much. You're really more concerned about the manifold pressure than that. So, I mean, you could, you know, anyway. But as long as you can push it for a little bit, it's not gonna burn up too much. But you know, if you do start pushing it above 44, you probably want to start paying attention to the water injection light there. Other than that, it's not a difficult plane to fly or anything like that. It's pretty easy to fly. Most of its difficulty is landing and taking off. Oddly enough, it has problems taxiing, but that really is just because the nose is really heavy. And you're probably going to nose plant it. But, I mean, other than that, it turns real well, it turns real tight. You can, don't get it going too fast, though. It gets a little weird when it starts going fast. So, now one of the weirder things about this plane is the dive brakes. You don't really have dive brakes. Your dive brakes are your front wheels. So in other words, the main gear are your dive brakes. So you're gonna need to use your dive brakes. You have to put your gear down, which just seems weird to me, but it works. Now there is a way to set it up, I guess, so that it only drops the front, like the main gear, and it doesn't drop the tail wheel. I haven't quite figured out how you do that. So, but we'll go ahead and I think we'll just land at the grass strip today and not try and land on the runway. But the other thing is this thing does not like to slow down, so you're gonna probably want to take a pretty long approach on it so you kind of figure it out a little bit. But I'm gonna go ahead and put my air brakes down and then flaps down. Now I'm going really fast here, so we'll see how this goes. But I mean, really, at this point in time, you should be at like 120 knots, and we are doing 170. Yeah, this is going to be pretty rough. So let's see if we can get it to slow down here a little bit more. At this point in time, you should be at about 80 knots. Now, the weirder thing about this plane is that it does like to nose plant itself, but missed the trees. But for some reason on landing, you can put a lot of pressure into the brakes, and it doesn't want to nose plant itself. But that being said, once you get below, once it does slow down a considerable amount, it does get very slow, you will want to watch your brake pressure because you will nose plant the plane. So that'll probably just take you kind of messing with that to figure that point out, but it does exist. So when you do set down and you have ground the tail wheel and you're pulling back on it, you can put a pretty good amount of brake pressure into it. So with that absolutely terrible landing, I will go into the review now And well, I guess I'll show you how what it looks like when the engine blows and it sprays the, because it is kind of neat. It sprays the cockpit with oil and everything, and then what the propeller looks like when it gets all bent out of shape, and then we'll go into the review. So anyway, here's what happens when you blow the motor. Alrighty, I'm gonna mention something that only I might find funny, but this is a Corsair built by Goodyear that has Michelin tires on it. So anyway, if you're thinking of purchasing the Corsair, it's available on Milviz.com for $40. Given what you get with this plane, I don't think it's overpriced. There are a lot of features that are unique to this plane, such as the guns, the bombs, and the damage effects. It also comes with 21 paint schemes. A slight disclaimer is that if you have purchased this through the Microsoft Flight Simulator Marketplace, or you plan to, you won't get all 21. I think you only get 17 paint schemes. And you also won't be able to use the bombs or the guns. They don't come with the plane if you purchase it through the Marketplace. Also, something I didn't mention before is that as you drop the bombs or empty the guns, it will cause a reduction in the mass of the aircraft and is supposed to change the flight characteristics a little bit as it happens. Now, I don't really ever fly this plane with any kind of armament on it, so not entirely sure what that's like, but it's supposed to happen. So overall, I think the Corsair is a fantastic plane. It's a lot of fun to fly. The texture quality is some of the best I've seen in Microsoft Flight Simulator so far. And a lot of that has to do with like the little details that are in the paint schemes. Overall, it looks great, both from the exterior and the interior. The sound quality is really good. The engine sounds are amazing, and everything else sounds great too. From the switches to the hydraulic system, even sort of the bending and scraping of metal when you crash it. Flying it around is a lot of fun. It's really maneuverable, except at slower speeds. It's a little less maneuverable. It feels kind of sluggish. Now, I feel a little weird saying this about a game, but it really does have a good feel to it. It does a really good job of kind of letting you know what's going on. If you are about to stall, you don't really need that warning light. It's gonna kind of let you know that it's about to stall. It's a little hard to explain, but you'll notice it when you fly it. I almost forgot. It does whistle. You have to hit about 300 knots for it to happen, but it does whistle. And that's about it. I'm going to say again, this is a fantastic addition to Microsoft Flight Simulator. So that's pretty much going to be it for today. So thanks for watching, and I hope there's next time.